the government thing, you can request the flexible working arrangements.
Precisely. So with this work from home thing, right, then you can practically be in any country.
I mean, that of course, that would be the dream. Let's say like living in Vietnam and being able to work Singapore salary. There's tax residency laws that have to be considered. Most countries will have some kind of, obviously, when you're working, you have to pay tax, right? So the question is, where do you pay that tax? It'll be the country where you live in, most likely. Most countries will have they'll say, okay, like you have to be in the country 183 days of the year, which is like 50.1% of the year. That's why they have tax law, like, to prevent that kind of thing.
I heard you're like quite a coffee addict. Are you?
Yes, I am. I'm
I
Aussie.
am also actually. yeah. And then especially now, like, you know, you're like going back and forth with Vietnam, right? Wow, that's like the coffee capital.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how they do it, right? But the coffee there is like you will never get like the crash.
Yeah, that's the difference. Like coffee here, it's like I love it, but it's like it hits you hard and then the crash. You know?
Yeah.
But like Vietnam coffee, it's also strong, but it's like super smooth, you know.
But anyway, in Singapore has like super dope coffee, you know. I just like realizing that I'm settling for the cheaper options. I don't really care about the quality really in Singapore, you know. Everything's just making me crash.
Yeah.
Know, but you're exploring everywhere, right? You probably know any place that you like.
Oh, coffee wise.
Yeah.
God, there's a lot of good ones. I mean, I'm in Joo Chiat, East Coast. You've got like, you know, plain vanilla, you got common man. There's a few smaller ones as well. Back when I lived in Telok, there's also a few good ones there. God, the names are escaping me now. It's been a while. Sarni's is one that I liked. It's like a lot of like Aussie style coffee places.
It's like a craft coffee kind of.
Yeah, like flat white, cappuccino, lattes, this kind of style, you know.
But how is your relationship with coffee? Because for me, right, I cannot live without coffee, you know. So it's like I have to have coffee before I can be like a normal human.
Yeah. I can be like that. Yeah. I try to limit myself to 2 coffees a day max. I try to wake up and not go straight to I have a coffee machine at home. I try not to go straight to having a coffee. I read that, you know, you should let your body kind of wake up naturally first and then have a coffee.
The Andrew Huberman 90 minutes before coffee upon waking, something like that. Right?
Yeah.
Cortisol level, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a guy called Dan Go who I follow who I learned that tip off, but I guess it's something that a lot of people have picked up on.
Yeah. So originally you said that you were from Australia, and like how was the scene here as compared to Singapore?
Yeah, well, I came to Singapore first in 2019. So
wow, that's COVID period.
Yeah, well, 8 months before COVID. So okay. I remember that very clearly. Because I was like living by myself during circuit breaker and stuff. So it was pretty crazy time. Friday night poker with the boys online. That was the thing we look forward to every weekend then. I didn't get too much of a chance to explore the Singapore nightlife before COVID. I went to like the old Kilo Lounge and like Sillavi and stuff.
But Kilo now is behind the green doors, right?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. Same people. But yeah, then, you know, obviously COVID came along and, I was like, damn, I wish I kind of did more. You know, when I first moved to Singapore, I wasn't really thinking about music too much. I knew I wanted to kind of get like, you know, continue it in Singapore, but I was just kind of getting like my feet on the ground, getting used to living in a new country. And then obviously no one expected COVID to happen. And, it was like 18 months or something before, you know, we were able to get back out there.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was just like connecting with people online, talking to people, kind of getting to understand the scene a little bit. And then, when, you know, started making friends, when travel started, we're going places together and stuff. So started building like a friendship group. But then, like when they started to lift some of the restrictions and, if you remember, like the first thing they did was get rid of the PAX restriction, like in private places. So like, okay, cool. So now we can do a party. So let's do a sick party, you know. So we had a few friends that were living in this walk-up place in Bukit Teresa, if you've heard of that. It's kind of like, most people have never heard of it. Yeah. It's kind of like between Harbourfront and Outram Park. Yeah, so there's like a couple of HDBs there, and then there's like one street with some walk-up. So they're living there, and they were going to be like moving out in the next 2 months. So we're like, it's the perfect conditions to do a party, you know, like a good party.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So like, all right, this is like, I've been waiting to do something like this. So like, let's make it big, you know? So we're doing fundraiser as well for, Ukraine at the time. Excuse me. Doing a fundraiser for Ukraine. So everyone who came had to donate, but you know, I got in like Function One speakers in the house, curated like a proper lineup and everything. And we ended up having like over 200 people in that house. And, it was like, it was insane. It was like Project X, you know?
Yeah. Wow, Project X, everybody know our age, really. You know?
Yeah. It was crazy. And like, you know, there was like about 100 people that we had to turn away because we just didn't have any more room. It was insane.
Was it like free entry or something?
You had to pay like about $10 to like donate to the cause, to Ukraine. So yeah, it was called Dance for Ukraine. And I think that party was like, okay, like that was like my first time really playing in Singapore. So it was the first time that, you know, people had heard my sound, and I booked a couple other DJs like, HBN from Last Saturdays. That was actually her first ever gig, and now she's, you know, killing it. And also Vibes, who's a regular at, you know, Thug Shop.
Tough,
Tough and, HQ. So yeah, people still talk about that party like to this day. And, you know, so like when we did that party, I'm like, okay, that went really well. Like I'm keen to keep doing parties. And, and, you know, obviously the community aspect, you know, raising money, for a good cause, that was kind of like, you know, one of the core, principles of Yes You when it started. So, so after that, like when the clubs opened up, I started, you know, obviously going out, checking out the local scene, connecting with people, started meeting people. And, then we did our first party at like official Yes You party at Glass Hut back when it was at Pearl Hill. That one went really well. And, it just kind of went from there.
So. The word of mouth is crazy on that one.
Yeah.
But before we move on to Yes You, right, I think that's like a huge thing, right? I want to like go back to that COVID part. So before, right, you moved to Singapore as like for a job or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then when COVID happened, right, did it affect that job in any way, or is it like a work from home kind of thing?
Yeah, well, I work in the tech industry doing sales, like B2B sales, software as a service. So, at the time, I came over with the company I was working with at the time from Australia to Singapore. And then I was there for about a year, and then...
Is it DocuSign?
Thomson Reuters actually before that. So they do a lot of people have heard of Reuters, you know, but I was selling tax compliance technology.
Whoa.
So, you know, not really the sexiest tech, but so I was there, and then I wanted to try something new, so found the opportunity at DocuSign, and that was just as you know, COVID had begun. So we were working from home, fully remote, and you know, it was when you think about it, like DocuSign is, you know, the core business of DocuSign is signing documents electronically. So when COVID happened, it's like, oh crap, we can't sign things in person. Businesses still need to do contracts. So it was like,
business booming, man.
Oh, business boom. It was like, holy shit, man. It was like a salesperson's dream, you know. It's like every day you have like 5 or 6, you know, new meetings, new customers, and you know, just closing deals left, right, and center. Everyone's crushing it. It was a crazy time.
Your COVID is very different from everybody else's COVID.
I know, yeah.
Well, that's great, man. Yeah.
I was definitely in the right place in the right time, at the right time work-wise then.
But is it like very stressful, like there's no work-life balance?
It was, but I guess during that time, like, because we were doing really well, that obviously helped. Like, we were getting reward for our work. We were closing, like commission and stuff. So that helped. And I guess, during COVID, didn't really have circuit breaker didn't have much choice anyway. It's like, well, what else can you do? I was just going for a lot of walks every day because I was also living by myself. So
save a lot of money.
But the social isolation, that was a hard part. So that's why every Friday night, me and my mates would play poker online, and there was that app House Party, if you remember that. That was during COVID, those games. So little things like that.
You do live stream, DJ live streams?
I did one. When was it? It was, we still had the club restrictions, but we were able to have people at our houses.
Like 10 packs or something.
Yeah, I think it might have been 5. It was either 5 or 8 packs at the time. Yeah. So I did one live stream, because I started this series called Golden Hour, which is more soulful disco kind of vibe.
Classics.
Yeah. So I did the first, did the first mix, and then I was the second one. Well, why don't I, do a live stream? So I went on Twitch, and friends were there. They were dancing, pop some champagne and stuff. It was fun. But haven't done one since. But it's now that we can do it in person, But it was still fun.
Yeah. So I realize that now all of us are constantly glued on our phones, right? But I wonder why live stream DJing, right, hasn't taken over the live experience. What is your perspective on this? Because if you see at a festival venue, nobody's dancing, everybody's just filming like that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's TikTok generation, as they call it, right? Everyone's kind of short on attention now, I think. Most of the things that go viral are very short videos. It's just
I'm surprised, man. Live stream didn't take over. People still want to go for live events. That is quite a surprise to me.
Yeah, because there were a lot of talk, people were doing virtual festivals and stuff, and it did seem that was gaining traction because people were well, hey, I'm getting entertained from the comfort of my home. So, But you're right. I think it seems to have dropped off. I mean, you've still got obviously the Lot Radio in New York and Whore in Berlin and these ones. But again, they're so iconic. They're almost more known for the backdrop than the people that are playing, that kind of falls back into that whole thing. But I think it's a good question. Not really sure why, because I do see that at events, and it's definitely something I try to think about is how can I make an event immersive and have a good vibe so people are not on their phones, people are enjoying it. So
and especially when you're doing your event, you, right, it is non-profit, right? Non-profit at least cannot lose money also, So what are some challenges, right, you have when you are trying to create your Yes You concept where the profits are all to charity? That is insane,
Yeah, well, I guess I'm kind of, being privileged in the sense that I have a day job. So it's allowed me to just pursue it as a pure passion at the moment. Which has been great, So I think just really enjoying doing the events, has been the driving factor for me rather than trying to maximize the profits. I mean, financially the parties have still done well, and which is great because it's more that we're able to, donate to the causes that we focus on. But I think I realized that I do think that perhaps the fact that I wasn't really focusing on making money kind of helped make it successful in that sense,
more genuine, you draw the people.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, that's not to say we haven't had events that didn't go well, but it's an ebb and flow kind of thing,
The thing is, I'm thinking about scalability. For example, eventually you want to make this not a Yes You clubbing event, but a Yes You festival. Wow. Then, when all the profits are just going outwards, right? How do you even build? Yeah.
Well, obviously I'm making sure I'm not losing money. So like, that's the important thing. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of like what I've been thinking about in the long term. I mean, right now I'm working in the tech space, but I don't think it's something I'm going to do forever. And I guess I never really had any expectations about, where Yes You would go when it started. Like I've, taken a bit of a break the last few months just with like a new job, and then, kind of had a motorbike accident a couple of months ago, which was unexpected. But yeah, like
what happened? Do you like have to go to hospital or something?
Yeah, so I was there, visiting my girlfriend who lives there, and we were just going to go get lunch, and she has a motorbike, she lets me ride it, so she hopped on the back. We just, we're going up the road, and I just had to hit the brakes, like not too hard. There was just another bike there that kind of, swerved a little bit. It was just defensively braking. The bike didn't like it, and we just went boom fell on the ground doing about 60. So yeah, it was pretty fast. And, like I've been riding for like 14 years. Like I've got a bike here, ride pretty much every day. So, it's something that you just don't expect to happen, but it happened.
When I first went to Vietnam, right, the motorcycle and the cars are like, how do you even cross the road? And traffic lights are like non-existent, but the locals are like, just cross only.
Oh
like,
yeah.
And they will just make way, and it's like crazy.
My girlfriend told me that skill. She's like, watch this. And takes my hand, just goes through. I'm like, oh shit, okay, that's how you do it.
Yeah, maybe that's why, like, whenever there's somebody's like swerving in, right, I guess like 50% you have to trust, like they know. Maybe that's how the traffic works there.
I think so. Organized chaos is how I like to describe it. Yeah. But yeah, so it happened, and then just, had to go to hospital, dislocated both of my shoulders.
What the shit?
Yeah. So, had to, I just remember we were sitting on the side of the road, like after we fell. And then like I blanked out for a few seconds, but, I remember sitting there, there's a bunch of uncles there. They're just like, just not really helping. But I guess they see that kind of thing every day. But
but your girlfriend's okay, fine.
She's okay. I mean, she had scrapes and stuff, and a couple of bad ones. She's still got some still kind of healing up, but like thankfully no broken bones or anything. Like that was for me me getting hurt's one thing, but my girlfriend or anyone who's on the back, it's like you're responsible for them. So so I went through the whole, all the emotions those couple of weeks, just like angry at myself or crashing, and then, upset that I could have hurt my girlfriend. And then, eventually just kind of came to peace with it and accepted like, hey, I'm human. Like these things can happen to anyone. And obviously it could have been so much worse, Yeah, so it was a pretty, intense time, I would say, mentally the last couple of months. But
how long were you hospitalized?
Well, I didn't have to stay in hospital.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was good. I mean, I think they were just keen to get rid of us because, we went in. We had to get a grab to the hospital. It was couldn't use either of my arms, and got there, and God, it took a couple hours before they even did anything, and they didn't give us any painkillers. My girlfriend had to go to the pharmacy to buy painkillers, and
damn,
I'm like, guys, I'm really hurt here,
I'm dying.
Yeah. And then so eventually they had to pop the shoulders back in, one guy had his foot like this in my armpit, pulling. He's like, don't resist. And I was, and I'm like, can you guys just knock me out before we do this or whatever? And they're like, no, we can't. Got to do blood tests. I'm like, all right, just let's just get it over and done with. I know it's gonna hurt like a bitch, but let's just do it. And It did hurt like a bitch.
Okay, at least you didn't pass out. At least you didn't pass out from the pain or something.
Yeah.
I mean, the hospital might be slow, but the Grab is super fast.
That's it. Yeah.
When I was in Vietnam, right, I thought like, okay, let's order some Grab food, you know. Then I thought like, okay, I can go shower, then come out, then the Grab. No way, man.
I'm here.
Yeah. I just on the shower. I'm here. What the hell? Like they cook on the way there or something.
So convenient and so cheap, right?
Yeah, like, super fast.
Yeah.
And then also like since you said that you're from Australia, and then you know there's so many great house DJs. Fisher, Dom Dollar, Wax Motif, John Fletcher. You know, so many of them, and they traditionally found success in the West. Yeah, but why Singapore? Yeah. Because now Australia is like taken over by hardstyle, right? If you think about it.
Yeah, hardstyle is a big thing. Def Con.
When I was with Emma Hewitt, the trance
singer,
right? It was a super random time. One of my friends like, okay, can you help me be a artist manager for Emma Hewitt? I'm like, okay, whatever. Then let's just do it. So random, right? Then she's talking about Australia and why she decided to move out of Australia and live in Miami because like the more melodic and progressive stuff don't really work in Australia as well anymore. What's your take on that?
Yeah, well, you know, I started really going out in like, I'm 34 now, but I started really going out like regularly, clubbing, festivals, stuff like maybe 2012. And at that time, you know, it was obviously like EDM, like trance, hardstyle. They were all very big in Australia. We had, you know, Def Con, massive festival in Sydney. You know, went to that. There's this club called Massive, which still goes on.
Wow.
Which, you know, so I went through my hardstyle and trance phase, and then eventually, like, you know, got into kind of like the French electro sound. So that was a big thing in Sydney then. So you know, like kind of like Justice, Simian, Mobile Disco,
MGMT.
That kind of stuff. Kind of like Bloody Beetroots. Yep. So you know, that was massive then, and then. Like house has always been around, but then I guess, you know, we also had like Melbourne Bounce as well, you know.
TJR.
TJR, like Will Sparks, all these guys. So a lot of different things happening. But back then in Sydney, you know, you'd have like 5 or 6 clubs in the area where I was living, King's Cross, which would go to like 6 a.m. every Saturday night, absolutely packed, you know, crazy. Then you could go to like a day club and party all the way through Sunday, you know.
Right after 6 a.m. Then you go to day club. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, there was this place called Spice Cellar, which there was a guy named Murat Kilic who was running it. And that was my first kind of exposure into like house music, like deep house, sensual house and stuff. And I was like, okay, this is cool. And then I started to kind of transition into house music. I started DJing like 2013 and I started with that heavier electro sound. But then after like about a year, then I started transitioning into house. But coming back to your question, I think like around, the guys like Fisher, Dom Dollar and stuff. Like hardstyle and trance still around in Australia, but I think really taking off now in the US. Hardstyle, I think, is starting to like, you know, EDC, these festivals, you're seeing those like hardstyle artists regularly on the lineups now. I don't think it was always like that.
A lot of house music last time, right? EDC.
Yeah, it was just like EDM, big room stuff, but now it's also become very housey, like tech house, you know. And I think also like the tech house sound, that has obviously in the US is just massive now, you know, like, like Fisher, Chris Lake, you know, selling out like Hollywood Boulevard and all that stuff. Insane, right?
That is crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't blame any of them for going to the US. I think
that's
Fisher,
where the market is at, right?
Yeah, I mean, if that's the kind of like avenue that you want to go down, like the tech house sound, I think that's the place to be. And like Fisher is, you know, obviously he's a very, very like Aussie larrikin style character. I think, you know, people
represent me 100%.
Yeah, but he's also like a, you know, really good DJ, and he used to be part of a duo called Cut Snake back in Australia. So the other guy is he's also lives in the US now, but they started in Australia. Like, I warmed up for them when, like, when Fisher was part of that, so before Fisher was anyone back in the day. So, but I guess coming to Singapore, like, it was mainly for work, and I didn't like expect to really do much music-wise here. It wasn't really on my mind at the time, and but then I kind of got to know the scene and know the people here, and I'm like, okay, there's a cool, like, it's obviously a lot smaller, it's a lot more niche, but there is that real, like, community feel to it. And I think now, post-COVID, we're seeing a lot more, like, collaboration within Southeast Asia and building that regional community. So I think that was those were things that really kind of appealed to me and got me kind of excited to get back into it. And sort of like my music style has evolved as well with that. So it's been really interesting. Not what I expected, but it's been good.
Do you think house music comes with age?
With age?
Because I'm like such a huge like trap, dubstep, rhythm kind of guy. You know, I had a night at Zouk called Crowd Control, and we were like doing mosh pits and stuff. And then now I'm just like, hey, house music that's enough already.
Open up the pit.
Open up the pit, man. Yeah, break it up. Wow, those are the days, man.
Oh yeah, man. Well. I mean, dubstep was like, when I was, going out in Sydney, dubstep was huge, like we had, there's a club called Chinese, well, it's not there anymore, but Chinese Laundry in Sydney.
I heard of that.
That was like the place. So every weekend, so Friday night was bass music night, Saturday night was house music. So Friday night, God, you name it, like all the big bass DJs, Crank Dad, Jaws, Zomboy, Flux Pavilion. Whoa. God, all these guys, even Marshmallows played there, on the Friday night, like, and it's a very low ceiling. It's like, just gets so packed in there. Yeah, it's like you see the sweat, like, condensation on the walls dripping down, and that was like, and you had mosh pits and stuff in there. It was so I used, that in my basshead days, that was, where I was at. And then Saturday night was house music, and that's where I was like, I was DJing there for a few years as well. So I mean, so bass music will always have a place in my heart. But now that I'm older, I think I'm a bit more mellow. I'm like, right, I just like to kind of like bop and just groove. Yeah, exactly. And and just like meet people, connect with people. That's one thing I like really love about like the scene and going out, because you just, it just brings like. There's nothing else that brings such a diverse, array of people together. Could be doctors and like construction workers together, like people that, so. I
mean, there's no other occupation like DJing that can bring people together.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, when I was a resident DJ, right, it's like people just I'm meeting people constantly. Nobody goes to like a financial banker and visit them at their job,
That's it.
Something like that.
Exactly.
And then like I mentioned before we start this podcast, right, I'm seeing like the trend, right, of more and more DJs, right, that are featured in the scene, right, that are not full-time. Because pre-COVID, as I was like full-time DJing, right, if you see most of the rosters, right, they are all mainly taken up by full-time DJs. But right now, I think it will be like half or more than half, right? DJing is not even their main thing anymore. Yeah. Like, I feel like last time is more like gatekeeping, like, oh, you're just part-timer, don't come and steal our rice bowl or something. But now it's like different. Yeah, but I also don't really understand how when the shift came to be.
Yeah, it's I've seen that as well. I've noticed that. I think like if we talk about, obviously you've got different types of DJs. I think you've got sort of like, the like, let's say wedding DJs or the, bar DJs, the ones that kind of like, take requests or these kind of things. Yeah, open format. I think I still see a couple of them that are, playing lots of gigs every week and perhaps make enough that they can survive. But yeah, I think in general, like, there's definitely been a big, the guys that make it and the guys that are playing massive festivals are getting paid like more and more, right? And then
the wage gap.
Yeah, exactly. The wage gap is just increasing in that sense. And, you know, I do worry about like how sustainable it is in the long term, because
EDM bubble gonna burst.
Yeah, well, because, you know, to your point, like it's I think it is harder for people to pursue music full time now, because you know, to get that sort of, you know, income that you can live off is difficult, and cost of living keeps increasing. You know, I do have a friend back home in Australia who, you know, quit his full-time job like about 2 years ago, and has made really good music. Like he does like dark, kind of bass house. And, you know, he's had his tracks played at massive festivals. Guys like, you know, Dr. Fresh and stuff played his tracks. Yeah. So, but even for him, it's a grind, you know, and it's tough mentally. So yeah, that's the thing. And that's why, like, I have a lot of respect for people who do decide to drop everything and go after it, because it's difficult, and you have to have a real passion for it to be able to pursue it, you know? So,
especially on days when you're not making money.
Exactly.
You still have to like it enough to continue. Wow.
That's it. Exactly. So that's where I think, you know, that's where the passion really comes in, because if you're doing it because you're really enjoying it, and you just, you know, love that, you know, being able to express yourself with your music and connecting with dance floors, and that's, you know, that's something special. And I guess, like, I know a lot of people now that are, you know, just kind of sustaining themselves with, you know, maybe passive work, part-time work, or maybe other types of creative pursuits. But yeah, you know, there are a lot more, as you said, like, you know, part-time DJs, people who have full-time jobs now. And you know, I think that there's different schools of thought about this. I think that, you know, it's never going to be a bad thing to have more people who are, you know, DJing and into music, right? More
bigger market cap.
Yeah, exactly.
More awareness.
Exactly. You know, and you know, I do hear people say that, you know, that they're taking work away from the people who are going full time, and, you know, I understand that perspective, but I also believe that, you know, the people who have the talent, they're gonna, you know, shine through, and they're gonna be, you know, they're gonna get to where they deserve to be. And you know, if you're working full time, like, you don't have as many hours to devote to music as people who are pursuing it full time. And I believe that that's a, you know, massive
like an
differentiate. Yeah, for sure. You know.
I'm thinking about that as well, right? As you are saying, right? I kind of came to a conclusion within like the past, like, last 5 seconds, right? I was thinking, because like when you said the wage gap, right? Local open format DJs are not being paid enough to play what they don't like, right? Then it's like what for, right? I rather play what I like, but then I don't get paid, or maybe I get paid very little. It kind of like fulfills the soul more. And then for financial, since I can't really get it from DJing, might as well I just get like another full-time job, you know. So it's like kind of a win-win for them.
That's it.
Yeah, probably. Probably until you get to like a beyond regional, you know, so they have like different rank system, right? It's like local DJ, regional, then C tier, B tier, then A, which is like all your Steve Aoki, Skrillex, whatever. I think maybe you need like minimum C tier or something like that, traveling like the whole of Asia, touring, then you can kind of survive, like kind of like an Inquisitive or Wukong or something like that. Yeah. If you're like smaller than that, then probably you still need a full-time job, I guess. Yeah, that's the sad reality.
That's it.
Yeah.
Or do events.
You have to host your own events, right? So like, I've been like hosting revelries every single month for 2 years, and then I'm like, oh man, this is like too much, you know, it's crazy. Like, I don't know, are you like a one-man show as well?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, not necessarily by choice. Like, I think a lot of people assume that, you know, I just want to do Yes You by myself. I actually asked friends if they want to get involved, but I guess when I just started it was just me. I mean, I do have a designer who I've been working with from the start, so you know, I've always considered her an integral part of it. But yeah, like, other than that, like, finding the venues, working at like liaising with the venues, the operations, if we're getting in sound, visuals, etc., booking, all that stuff. Yeah, marketing, obviously.
Marketing is a pain, man.
That's the hardest part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, so that's been all me. And yeah, it's definitely, it's tough. Yeah.
So what's the schedule? Like once every 3 months through an event?
I think that's
more sustainable, right?
Yeah, that's so exactly. So like at the start, I think I was doing like one every sort of 2 months.
Yeah.
And that was kind of already on the limit.
Yeah.
And then like I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna kind of drop back to quarterly, and that's kind of what I was doing. And then like our most recent one was in January, which is 4 months ago. Except for Immersion, which has still been going on a monthly basis. But like, thankfully, that's, Chris from Wild Pearl is,
Immersion with Wild Pearl collaboration.
Yes, you Wild Pearl collaboration. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but Chris is, just a beast. Like he's the brawn behind the operation, there would be no Immersion without him. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And, creating event once every 4 months. Yeah. Okay. But then the thing is like, the stress about creating event is like one has to be better than the next, you have to like top it.
Yeah.
Then that's where, the time seems to be like shorter and shorter for you to do more amazing stuff.
Yeah. I know what you mean. It's, and obviously there's so many, events and lots of collectives now and,
correct. When we first started, it's just like 3 collectives or 2,
Yeah. I think we were like, you was like maybe one of the first movers post COVID. I think that was great. Then obviously, a lot more started popping up and, so started to notice, it was, tougher to, like less predictable in terms of ticket sales. Like we're still doing consistently good. But, we didn't have that predictability. And I know that that's something that that seems to be behavior across the board now in Singapore. It's like people are not so, they don't really buy tickets beforehand. They're happy to like keep their options open and then buy at the door.
And so, it's like heart attack for event organizers like us.
Yeah, it's like, oh shit, I've only sold like, 20 tickets and then, like 150 turn up at the door. Like I've seen that happen, So that is a very stressful thing. But like, I guess what I learned is to just like, trust the process, and if you know that you're doing the right things, people will come. And that's kind of how I tried to think about doing events is like, like I think when I was starting, I'm like, okay, how can I make things bigger and better? But now I'm just like, okay, I'd rather just have something like consistent, try out some things, just keep it interesting rather than like, okay, just try and make it like, bigger, more capacity because, getting the right venue is the other challenge in Singapore, right?
Yeah.
There's like so many things that I would like to do, but
the regulation also.
Yeah, exactly. The venues is just, all the licensing stuff. It's just like a nightmare, so yeah, I have a lot of respect for the guys like Zach, who are just finding new venues all the time and having to go through all that. Like
Zach is next level, man.
Yeah.
How and get connected with so many big acts. It's so crazy.
Yeah. Well, I think people like Zach, they've been doing it for so many years and have, kind of built that network. And, I'm seeing other promoters doing that now, like Civilian Affairs, Sivanesh and Lillian, Vibes, Unmute, they're booking a lot of regional DJs and building that network. And you kind of get to the point where, the agencies, who host those DJs on their roster, they're like, they're starting to reach back out to them or being like, hey, I've got these DJs coming, at this time. So, I think once you kind of build that network and you've done a few good parties, then, you can start having people sort of throwing artists at you as well. So,
So after COVID, right, we all realized the power of the collective, like, wow, it can bring in massive crowds. And if you realize, right, a lot of clubs, they are also forming mini collectives for their individual theme nights.
Yeah.
So rather than, have like a Friday is like K-pop, Saturday is like EDM or whatever, right? They brand it like as though it's like a collective night, but it just all belongs to the club, It is like a trend that they are going forward. So, so that now they are like copying, quote unquote, copying what we are doing, right? And then what's the next step to remain competitive? Because they have venue advantage, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess the venues have just kind of adapted to, how people are, consuming events because, like as you said, post-COVID, that there's been a massive shift from like the regular club night, and not just in Singapore. I've seen it kind of a lot of places, like in Sydney as well. Like pre-COVID, you'd have your main clubs. You knew that every Friday, Saturday night, that's where you went. They'd be bringing in the DJs. Yeah, they'd have their own team of promoters, Like, remember promoters? Like, not just like
that's us now.
Us now. But those promoters are like the guys that like, they, at least in Australia, I don't know what it was like here, but like, you'd be given like, obviously you get free entry and you can maybe get like 2 or 3 of your friends in for free, and then you get like drink cards, and you get maybe like, $3 or $4 for each person you bring in, that kind of thing, and be often like students and stuff. But, I think like post-COVID, the birth of the collective, I think, was really formed by wanting to have that sense of community and identity. Like a lot of like these collectives, they're all kind of like standing for something. They have their own crowds or their own vibe. So I think people have that like sense of belonging. So that's, I think, a big reason why we've seen the sort of, collectives take over. And, obviously there are clubs in, Singapore, like obviously, Tough Club has a lot of, collectives now, that are doing parties there. I think it's a win-win, right? Like the promoters have a, plug and play. They can just go and do their party, but they can still bring in their own flavor, their own music, their own crowd, and it's a good thing for the venue as well. So it's been an interesting shift, that's for sure.
Do you see like now finally it's time for like us to start collaborating really, since like the clubs are like emulating our strategies? We have to like outsmart them.
I think it's, I don't know if it's like outsmarting them. I think it's more like,
stay
in my
competitive.
mind, we're just like working together with them, because ultimately.
It's not just underground clubs, even mainstream clubs are also like emulating this formula, and it's like working pretty well, that's the only way they can like be like packed every week. Because they have to pay rental, so they have to make sure that every single day is packed, right?
That's right.
So that's the stress on them as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. I think like, I think it's just venues have just adapted, and I don't see things going back to the way they were in that sense.
Yeah.
So it's just about how can you just, keep working together and building those relationships, and
Yeah, correct. Relationship and like throughout the so many podcasts, right, it seems like the solution is to like work together. But then the thing is like it's so obvious that working together will benefit, right? But why hasn't it really happened? Maybe because like, I don't know, like directional differences or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. Like, I don't think any people in the scene are against the community being together as one and working together. Although I know it can feel like that sometimes. But I do think it's like more so around people have their own directions and they've kind of built a brand, and maybe they're like, they're just, like maybe they're just not finding the right people to work with that kind of overlap with like what they want to do. I think that's, important. Like, for me, when I've collabed, like it's always important to figure out like, okay, does the music align? Does the vibe align? Do we get along? Like, as people, obviously that's important. So,
so many factors.
Yeah. So many factors, you know, and, because, you know, like collabs don't always mean that, oh, you know, they bring 200 people, I bring 200 people, bang, 400 people party. You know, it doesn't always work like that.
Yeah, correct.
I've had collabs that did really well. Like, you know, we had the Secret Garden last year. That was like 800 people. But then, you know, I've had others that didn't do well. So, you know, you just got to try some things out, obviously, sometimes. And, yeah.
When you plan an event, it's like there's so many factors that can make it go wrong, you know. Like, for example, if you're doing something and then, I don't know, like maybe like Super Club, there's on the same date, they got something and then it's going to affect you. Or maybe like transmission is happening. Yeah, then all your friends are just there.
Yep.
So maybe we can like talk a little bit about like Vietnam clubbing scene. Because the owner of the studio here used to host his yearly dance festival. It's like the biggest dance festival in Asia.
What's it called?
It's called Radical Force Jam, RF Jam, Radical Force Jam at Wave House. And it's like thousands and thousands of people that they will come every year. It's like like Zouk out of dance. And there's like workshop and everything. So it used to be in Singapore every year, but then because of the rising cost, and then they shifted to Vietnam, and they are still equally happening, you know.
Wow. Okay.
So I guess maybe like from here to Vietnam, the setup cost, everything is like divided by 10 or something like that. Right? It's more possible. So do you like foresee like all of us start moving to Vietnam and doing our stuff there?
Well, possibly. I mean, I can only really speak about Hanoi because I haven't been to Ho Chi Minh yet. But yeah, I mean, from what I'm seeing, like there's a lot happening. There's people doing really cool stuff there, and I think there's people. There's a market for it as well. Probably a bit more freedom as well.
Correct.
I think a better, like, you know, maybe a better environment for like those kind of events, a larger scale events.
The creativity, right?
Exactly. Like, you know, I just came back from Equation Festival, which Vietnam. So it's 3 hours outside of Hanoi. So there's a club in Hanoi called Savage. And you know, they've the guys that do Savage are the ones behind that festival. Equation. It's in a cave, you know, like in a.
I think I saw videos about it.
Yeah, it's super cool, and it's a really like an amazing environment. Really like crazy energy there. They've got the cave, and then they've also got an outdoor garden stage. It's really nice, and it's a very like, you know, community focused vibe. It's very queer friendly as well. So it's just really, really nice. And I went there this year, like only 4 days after the accident. So I still had like the double slings and.
Oh my God. Have you been to Unmute Hanoi?
Not yet, no.
But you heard of it, right?
Yes.
Wow, the club is like, damn.
Yeah. It's, have you been?
No, I haven't. I really wanted to visit, like, the opening was like done so well and everything.
I've heard good things. I just haven't had a chance to go yet. My girlfriend's been. I think it's been pretty well received from what I've heard. Definitely keen to check it out next time. I just seem to always end up at Savage every time I get out. But yeah, I think next time definitely I'll check out Unmute. But yeah, they've been, you know, getting some good DJs in, and seeing videos. The setup looks really good as well.
So like I've been to Ho Chi Minh, I never been to Hanoi. Then for you it's like the reverse, right?
Yeah.
When I went to Ho Chi Minh City, I kind of like took like a bus tour, and then I just realized, we just keep going in circles and circles. It's just like a very small, you know, it's like quite repetitive and not really much clubs. But Hanoi is like where the party is at, right? I guess. Yeah.
Well, from what I've heard about Ho Chi Minh, that you know, there's different districts, and so from what I've been told, that like different clubs are like quite far away from each other. So I think that's probably part of it. Whereas Hanoi is a bit more compact, and you know, I think a lot of those clubs are kind of like, you know, not too far from each other. Like Savage, Mirage, Unmute. They're, you know,
is it all underground or hip hop and everything?
those clubs are the main underground clubs. Then you've also got like, Birdcage, which kind of does like more mainstream electronic music. And then, I haven't been to any like clubs there that do like, any like bottle service type clubs or hip hop or anything. Like, I presume that they have some, but I haven't been to them myself. Yeah. So
I think like more like a Ho Chi Minh kind of thing, but definitely not our kind of scene. Yeah. And so I like this interview you did, right, where you said that newer DJs are getting a little too excited to bang out their big tracks on the opening set, but also you also learned that you can still develop your signature sound while keeping things appropriate, right? Yeah, so like I don't know, I've seen so many cases, but the problem is like, as a newbie DJ, you also don't really want to start as like an opening DJ for the rest of your life, Is there ways in which you can showcase yourself, right, without like being unprofessional, like burning the main DJ,
I think it's you see, obviously, when a DJ gets their opportunity for the first time to play in a club, of course, like almost always they're going to get that opening slot. And, of course, like when you're learning how to DJ or, mixing your favorite tracks and, you get really excited when you start playing. And, you see that quite a lot, when someone playing an opening, first time out playing opening set, they probably often will play a bit too hard. And, because one, maybe in their mind, they're like, oh, I want to show like my tracks, I want to impress. And then also two, it's like, well, they haven't like yet learnt the kind of art of warming up the room. So it's, I think that's like it's a bit of like a catch-22, but, I mean, I think from my perspective, it's just important to like be patient and kind of, earn that opportunity to play a later slot. And because, playing the bangers is like, it's easier, right? Anyone can do it, right? Peak hour, the crowd's already going crazy. Just, go out there, do your thing. Like, they're not going to leave. Whereas, the opening set is like really important.
Make or break the night, man.
That's right. So if you can do the opening set well, then you're going to be trusted to play any time of the night.
But that's the thing. They are afraid that, right, okay, I can do the warm-up set very well, right? Then you are just forever as the warm-up guy, It's like, hey, this guy can do warm-up very well. Okay, let's just get him as warm-up every single time, I guess that's maybe their inherent fear that they have.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why they are like so, resistance against, like lowering their dignity.
It's a tricky one.
Yeah, it's a tricky one.
I mean, I think it's like, the promoters also, I think, have a duty to sort of give people those opportunities to play not just the opening set. Because I do see that happen. And that also used to happen to me. Like when I was playing at Chinese Laundry, I was playing there for like 3 years and I was almost always opening. I think I got to play the closed set like twice.
Wow.
And I was kind of like, I was definitely kind of frustrated. But then I guess also I just kind of learned to enjoy the like process of opening more. And because when you see the crowd starting to build up, that is also a nice feeling. It's you kind of got this going, So changing that perspective as well is helpful for me. And now like I'm really happy playing like any time of the night,
If you're good, then your fans will specifically come for your early hours. Something like that.
Yeah, ideally.
That's something as like a Zouk resident for 5 years. Yeah, you really have to like lower your pride, and play your role well. Because it's like professionalism, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah, because it's not about us at the end of the day, Like
correct. It's not about us. It's about like the whole night. Because the club is not just you.
Yeah.
Because if the whole night's success is just depend on one person, right? Isn't that so stressful?
Yeah.
It's like the bar, the promoters, everybody, combined.
Exactly. Yeah. The unsung heroes, and there's no party without the people on the dance floor.
Yep. That's correct.
Yeah.
And then, when again before when we started the podcast, you were like mentioning that okay, maybe you like save up enough money and then you can do whatever you want, right? And then how does one measure success? Because like I guess like for us, I believe we are not too materialistic, Maybe for some people it's like if I can buy a Rolex or something, yeah, that's success, or I can buy a car. But for you, like, do you have like a definition of success? Like maybe wake up every day, do what you want.
That would definitely be very nice.
Yeah.
I think just being happy, like being really like being happy, being healthy, just enjoying what you're doing every day, like waking up not dreading working and things like that, and it's hard because, I think we're all conditioned growing up to like, go and make a lot of money and get rich no matter what. And of course, like in Singapore, it's like it's
even
more so, right?
We're Singaporeans, we love money, man.
Exactly. Yeah. So, so I think it's like spending time here has made me kind of see that as well. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so I guess I'm at the point where I'm like, well, money isn't everything. Like as long as I'm, happy and I'm getting to do the things that I want to do and finding that balance between financial comfort and really pursuing what you want to do. Like for me, as especially also after COVID, during COVID, I really thought about like, okay, what are the things that make me happy in life? And like, how can I maximize the amount of time that I'm spending on those things? And I kind of narrowed down. Okay, what are the three things? Well, music, obviously, fitness, like, going to the gym, all that kind of stuff, and like riding motorbikes. I'm like, okay, so like, so the accident meant I couldn't do any of those three things well. So that was tough. But it's just kind of reinforced that, if anything, like it made me realize that, like to be happy, I got to really be doing things that I enjoy doing. So I think in the long term, like
I realize now, right, for us, we care very little about generational wealth. For us, it's just more about like building our own lives. And then we don't even care about like, getting married or not. It's not really that important anymore. Yeah. It's like, is it because like the standard of living is so high that, we don't even have time to focus about other people already? We're just like too busy with ourselves. Yeah, maybe.
Well, buying a house is like...
Yeah, it's crazy. Hey, how do you buy a house as an expat in Singapore? Is it even possible?
The stamp duty, I mean, I've not looked into it seriously. I just know that like the stamp duty is like, I think it's 30% for foreigners, and it's...
Stamp duty is like additional cost.
Yeah, it's like when you...
Oh, shit!
Yeah.
So if a 4-room is 400k, then you must add 30% on top of the 400k.
Yeah, exactly.
How?
And also and for PRs, I think it's like 10% and citizens 5%. So for foreigners, they've done that to kind of, try to insulate the market from too many foreign investors coming in and just buying up all the property, which happened in Australia. But it still happens. So, but generational wealth, like that's something that, like my grandparents were just kind of, not even middle class, and they had a nice house.
Yeah.
And now it's like people that are doing well. It's like if you're, the only way you're getting a house young is if like you've really like saved and been very, very smart with your money.
I still remember 10 years ago, my mom is like, really like 10 years ago, like maybe at 25, you don't ever have like girlfriend, don't even have plan to marry, then where's the sign of the house? There's no sign of me getting a house. And then after like talking to her for like maybe 3-4 years, right, and then she's like, oh my god, the house price is really ridiculous, man. I was like, I'm like, dude, imagine you think back when you were 25 and then the house is like 500k or something. You wouldn't even be able to get your house also.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But if you did, it'd be like, well, now it's like 1 million. So.
yeah, precisely. Yeah. That's why I think we live in like kind of the most challenging times. We got COVID, we got SARS, we survived everything, man.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. SARS,
Yeah, that's crazy. Anyway, with all the Palestine, Gaza, Ukraine, Russia, like so many things. Like I can't even be bothered already. In Singapore, it's like really stressful enough.
There's a lot of things going on, yeah.
So with all that said, right, would you still consider retiring in Singapore? Oh my God.
Oh
man.
gosh, I don't see that. I don't see my retirement being in Singapore, unfortunately. I see my retirement being somewhere very chill, very relaxing, probably not in a city.
Like Vietnam, Thailand, Bali, something like that.
Something like that, I think so.
Right.
Yeah. It's, no, but like, you know, I still have a lot to be thankful for Singapore. Like it opened my...
It is a financial hub.
Financial hub, yes.
Yeah.
Definitely helped me with my career, but like also just like met a lot of amazing people here. I mean, I know like people shit on Singapore a lot, and yes, it can be boring. It can be very boring, no doubt. But like there are some amazing people here, and I think because the community, if we talk about music, community is so niche, it's like more tight knit in that sense.
Oh yeah, more loyal.
Yeah, exactly. So
correct. Yeah, and someone with like I don't know, hey Shah, you were saying that there is this work from home thing implemented in December, right? Yeah. Well, do you have any like details on?
Mandatory law.
The government thing, you can request the flexible working arrangements. Yeah,
precisely. So with this work from home thing, right, then you can practically be in any country already and you still can work in Singapore, technically, like reap the finance of Singapore, something like that.
In theory,
right?
Because there's still like, there's tax residency laws that you have to, have to be considered.
Residency laws?
Well, most countries will have some kind of, obviously when you're working, you have to pay tax, right? So the question is, where do you pay that tax? So, it'll be the country where you live in most likely. And, but then, how do you define like living in the country? And so most countries will have a,
you need to work here.
They'll say, okay, like you have to be in the country 183 days of the year, which is like 50.1% of the year. So I think that's the law for Singapore for being an EP holder. Like you have, I mean, they say you have to be in the country for 6 months. I've heard varying like reports in reality about that, but yeah, I mean, that, of course, that would be the dream. Like, let's say like living in Vietnam and being able to work Singapore salaries.
Crazy.
I'd be gone.
You're a lot, man. You're like
that's it.
Like a mayor.
I would just work like a part-time job, 10 hours a week, get paid like Singapore salary in Vietnam. Nothing to worry about.
Yeah, done.
Yeah, that would be a dream.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's an idea, man. That's a good idea.
Well, that's why they have tax laws, so that's why I like to prevent that kind of thing. So
yeah. Wow, interesting. Yeah, and how's learning Mandarin come along? It's like so random,
不错
啊，哇 ，Holy shit！
好久没有联系。
Oh damn! Is Mandarin better than mine, man? It's crazy, man. You know the channel always, those like clickbaity channels of white guys speak Mandarin and shocks the crowd.
Are you gonna use that now for the clickbait?
I don't know, man. This is the video editor there. Wow, damn! Finally, our first million view video. God damn! Yeah, but like it's so random, right? Because I mean, your girlfriend is like, is it Vietnamese?
Vietnamese, yes.
Right. So I thought that would be like something that you learn.
Oh, I've been trying, but it's really hard.
Yeah.
It's harder than Mandarin.
Yeah. But maybe okay, let's talk about Mandarin, man. It's like so random to me. Like, how did your relationship with like Mandarin come in?
Well, I always loved languages, and I started Mandarin Chinese in high school. I did 1 year of it, and just did the 1 year, and then went to university, and I decided to pick it up again, and actually was one of my majors at university. So I studied it for 4 years, studying like classical Chinese, stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I started it because I thought that being in Australia, like it's within that kind of Asia Pacific sphere of influence. So I thought, okay, it'll be a important language to learn. Definitely something that would come in handy in the region. And I thought, hey, it'll be a challenge. So why not? So yeah, but I also think that like, you know, learning language in university is not necessarily like the best way to learn a language, because it's just so like, you know, you're learning from a textbook, you're reading about, you know, this kid likes to eat hamburgers and random stuff. It's like, this isn't really interesting. So I feel that reading, you know, reading stories that are interesting actually help you like absorb the language more. So that's something I actually recently like started to try and like get back into learning Mandarin, and like I would like to get to a level of fluency. Like I'm probably like kind of like into like basic conversational level, you know.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, that's insane already, you know. Yeah. Like I guess like a lot of Chinese people in Singapore, we are like so focused on English. And then, you know, now I guess it's like the cultural revolution or something where everybody's like starting to pick back their mother tongue.
Yep.
I recently spoke to a Gen Z, and then I'm like, dude, my Chinese is like below mama hoo hoo, you know. It's like damn shitty. They look at me like, what the hell? Yeah, they look at me weird. But back in the day, right, it's like, it's cool to just speak English, you know, like back in, you know, when I was younger. So I guess like, you know, the times have changed.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to pick up.
I think it's a good thing. I mean,
it's like the major language, right? Like Mandarin, English, Spanish, maybe like Japanese or something like that.
Yeah, well, I think French. You know,
French.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Like, if you can speak both English and Mandarin, then you can communicate with about half of the world's population. So that's a pretty handy combination to have. If you know like English, Mandarin,
and
French,
Hindi.
Spanish, and I do have a very good Angmo friend who's and Hindi, But like, I have one of my best Angmo friends here. He's French, but also speaks English, Spanish, and Mandarin. You know,
Ooh.
Yeah. So he just spent 3 months in Taiwan. So he's got it covered. He can travel anywhere pretty much with no issue.
I think I saw some like polyglot channels, right? They say that, right, all you have to do is like spend 6 months in a country, right? You'll be so immersed, right, that it's better than spending 6 years reading.
Yeah, well,
if you have no choice, you know, you have to speak.
Yeah, get thrown in the deep end, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's different schools of thought around that as well. Like there's a few guys online, like there's a guy named Steve Kaufman who speaks like 15, 16 languages. And he's like, well, yes, immersion is great, but you're not necessarily like able to absorb everything, and it also
right?
Yeah, exactly. And it also depends on like your own like willingness to speak, your confidence, and like, because a lot of the time we're very scared of making mistakes, you know, when we speak, and that's something that, you know, when I try to speak Mandarin, I try to overcome that fear of making mistakes. I know that like all the time I might know the vocabulary, but like I can't put it together in a sentence.
Intonation or something.
Yeah, or just the grammar, you know, like little thing. Although like Chinese grammar is pretty straightforward, but there's still some things that are a bit funny, you know. So
Yeah, I guess it's like something that toddlers don't have, you know, the lack of fear. So that's why they learn so quickly, right?
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah. That's the thing. Like, I mean, it's not necessarily that, a child just like can absorb it better. It's just like they don't have. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And then lastly, right, the importance of the Chinese market, I would say. Yeah. Like recently it has grown to like a ridiculous size. Do you like foresee like yourself like entering there to like host your events or something like that?
Well, I haven't thought about that, hosting an event there. That could be interesting. I would absolutely love to.
Dude, you can easily go in, man. You speak the language, you know. Yeah.
That'd be cool. Yeah, you know, it would be fun.
Correct.
I mean, who knows? You just put an idea in my head, maybe. I definitely want to do stuff regionally. You know, take you to other countries for sure. Immersion, you know, I think would be definitely something where I think the whole wellness angle, we're seeing a lot of, you know, that's popping off everywhere now. So that's definitely something we've talked about, you know, potentially doing that elsewhere.
We can look at Immersion because recently I've watched so many podcasts. It can be like a David Goggins podcast, all the way to like Morton, you know, David Guetta and Morton, all the way to like like Joe Rogan, everybody is doing cold plunges, Is there like a kind of like scientific backing of the health benefits or something like that?
Well, I think it's there are around like cold water, like whether it's cold showers or it's a cold plunge, kind of gets
or something.
I wouldn't say, I'm not sure about the immunity aspect, and I'm not the like scientific expert on cold plunges, so I'm probably not the best person to ask for that. But I can say that it definitely helps. Like, it's definitely an endorphin rush. Definitely get out of it feeling very fresh, very alert. Like, you're kind of fighting against a fear, right? No one likes to be freezing cold, but when you get in, you feel good, and it's not just like the shock that you're getting in the nervous system, but I think it's also that like sense of accomplishment. It's like, oh, I overcame something that makes me feel uncomfortable. And of course, once you
exercise high, something.
Yeah, exactly. So that's been like one of the main cornerstones of Immersion, obviously, is the cold plunges. Like, it started as like, okay, we're going to do a sober rave on a weekday and make it wellness focused. We're going to have a plunge there. And then it's like, whoa, a lot of people are coming for the cold plunges. And so, yeah.
It can be a thing on its own.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's been really good to see that.
But is it like a hot, cold kind of, there's like certain plunges where you go into the sauna, then you go to the cold, then go back in. Is that something like that?
No, it's just so at Immersion, we have like, obviously the music, there's a DJ playing. We have the cold plunges, the ice bar, so there's no sauna. I guess Singapore's sun is the sauna already. It's great because you can just get out and you can just air dry, which is really nice. But yeah, like we've had a lot of different like food and drink options in the mornings as well, like AG1, Bougie Botanicals, Outside as well, things like that. So that's been really good. And the whole idea was really just to kind of get people to kind of change that, at least from my side, is like get people to change their perception of like, oh, you have to like be fucked up to go out. You have to be drunk to go out. It's like, well, hey, like you can enjoy music sober and just, feeling the vibes and the energy.
Oh, that's a good PR, man, for clubbing. I love it. And then you can bring people in.
That's
so it. It's like Immersion plus YesU is like, wow, super wholesome, the combination. Yeah, and when you go there, you don't feel like sinful, and you're doing it for a good cause, and then, you don't have to be guilty about it. It's perfect.
Yep, that's it. Yeah. Because, like for me, I don't know about you, but like, hangovers are just...
when they finally reach our age, then they will get it.
Yeah, I cannot, like, 2-3 days, I'm just like useless, so...
Yeah, and especially for your job, it's like so high demand, right? You have to like get back in action the next day.
That's right. Yeah. So I just can't really afford to have like, waste a Monday anymore. It's just,
right.
Like back in my mid-20s, I could like party all night, drink like a fish, be fine on Monday. Like every weekend I was doing that, classic like Aussie upbringing, but now it's just like, if I had like, now I'll drink every once in a while. Like I try to spend a lot of time not drinking, but every once in a while I'll have maybe one or two, and sometimes
it ups the expectation for the entertainment. Now the entertainment has to be really good because you're not fucked up anymore.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. But I think as well, like if you can't enjoy it sober, like are you really enjoying it, or is it like that's
maybe there for sure. Hey guys, I'm at YesU.
Yeah. Well, each to their own. Yeah.
And lastly, do you have any upcoming projects? Because like YesU is kind of like on break, probably preparing for the next one, right?
Yeah, I'm starting to plan a few things. So I'm just like looking at a few artists that could hopefully bring in, and trying to look at some venues as well. So yeah, ended up taking a couple months off, just to, reevaluate a few things, a few work things that are going on. But the good thing is that it made me really miss having all those things going on. So, Immersion is still going, which is good.
It's a monthly thing, right?
Yeah, it's about a monthly thing, and it's this Saturday. It's going to be at Rumours, so it'll be the first time on the beach. Yeah, like this is kind of why I was like, I've been out of action for a little while because of the accident. So Chris got the whole thing going, but it was something, we were talking about for ages. So it'll be really cool to actually see it on the beach finally. But yeah, beyond that, hopefully in the next, couple of months, we'll do something again. So, yeah, stay tuned.
Yeah, very excited.
Yeah.
I can't wait to go to some of your concepts. Yeah, but thank you so much for today, for spending time with us. Yeah.
Yeah, man, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, man. Cheers.